As the howling wind swept through the empty streets, a small German shepherd puppy, barely able to move, staggered through the thick blanket of snow. His tiny paws left faint imprints in the white, and his fur was matted, breathing labored and eyes wide with fear. The puppy was on a desperate quest, driven by a singular thought: find help. His path led him straight to Officer Sarah Matthews, who had just stepped out of her patrol car. The puppy's desperate whimper cut through the night silence, and Sarah's heart went out to him immediately. She crouched down slowly, reaching out to comfort him, but the puppy wasn't seeking solace. He was pleading for her to follow him. In his eyes, Sarah saw an urgency she couldn't ignore, a determination that rivaled her own. Max, the German shepherd puppy, had been wandering for what felt like an eternity, his body exhausted and his small frame trembling as he trudged through the snow, dragging his injured paw. Every step was a battle against the cold, but his resolve never wavered. He was on a mission. Sarah noticed immediately that the puppy was injured, his eyes wide with panic and movements erratic. He stumbled to a stop in front of her, collapsed at her feet, and Sarah knelt down to check on him. That's when she saw the blood, a bruised and swollen paw that told a heartbreaking story of a puppy driven by love and loss. Sarah gently petted the trembling puppy, sensing that he wasn't just lost, but was searching for something or someone. The puppy, Max, looked up at her with pleading eyes before turning his head and walking away, with a look that told Sarah to follow him. Max led Sarah through the snow, his small body fighting against the cold, but his determination unwavering. Something in his movements told Sarah that he wasn't just lost, but was guiding her to a specific destination. As they walked, Sarah's heart was heavy with concern, but she followed Max closely, her senses heightened by the quiet atmosphere. The world around them seemed to fade, leaving only the sound of their footsteps in the snow and Max's quiet whimper. Max came to a stop in front of an old, deserted alley, his head turning back to look at Sarah. His body shook, but he didn't stop, pointing his nose towards the alley and whining with an intensity that made Sarah's heart skip a beat. Sarah whispered to Max, her voice trembling with concern, wondering where he was leading her. Despite her hesitations and the thick tension in the air, Sarah knew she couldn't turn back now, so she had to trust the puppy. She stepped into the alley, and a trail of blood caught her attention immediately. The first thing she saw was a bloody path leading into the darkness. Max turned to face her, his eyes wide with fear, as he let out a low whine, urging her to hurry. The wind was howling through the narrow passage, sending shivers down her spine. Sarah's heart was racing as she followed Max down the dark alley. The puppy's small body was trembling with each step, and his breath came in shallow bursts. She could sense his anxiety, but there was no turning back now. The trail of blood in the snow was unmistakable, and every instinct told her they were getting closer to something crucial. The alley opened into a small clearing at the edge of a wooded area, where trees stood like silent sentinels in the growing twilight. The world around them was turning white due to the heavy snowfall. Sarah squinted into the distance, but the wind and snow made it nearly impossible to see more than a few feet ahead. Max stopped in his tracks, and Sarah's heart sank as she saw what caught his attention. There, lying in the snow, was a German shepherd with her fur matted with snow and her body motionless. Her breathing was shallow, but Sarah could tell that she was still alive. The blood around her paws told a heartbreaking story. "Roxy," Sarah whispered, her voice barely audible against the wind. She didn't need to know the dog's name to feel the weight of the moment. The sight of the injured German shepherd, who had clearly been through so much, was overwhelming. Max padded over to the injured dog, his body shaking as he approached her. Sarah crouched down next to the injured Roxy, trying to comfort her. Roxy, sensing Sarah's gentle touch, lifted her head slowly, revealing her tired eyes filled with pain. Despite the pain, a glimmer of trust had formed in Roxy's gaze, showing she was hoping Sarah could help her. Sarah's breath caught in her throat, and she softly reached out to touch Roxy, who whimpered but didn't flinch. Max, Sarah's other dog, pressed his body close to her, as if seeking comfort. Sarah whispered softly, "It's okay," and brushed the snow from Roxy's fur, telling her, "I'm here to help, just hang on." Sarah evaluated the situation, realizing Roxy had been outside for too long, and her paw was badly injured, making it too weak for her to stand on her own. Yet Roxy's will to survive was evident in her eyes, showing she wasn't giving up. Max was worried, looking at Sarah and then back at his mother. Sarah reassured Max by gently touching his head and saying, "I know, buddy. I'm going to do my best to help your mom." Sarah is trying to help Roxy, a dog, who is in distress, despite the challenging weather conditions. Sarah tries to reassure herself to remain calm and focused, having radio contact issues due to the storm, but quickly helps Roxy to a sitting position to comfort her. The howling wind makes the situation even more difficult, but Sarah is determined to make her way back to the patrol car, with Max, her canine partner, by her side. As Sarah trudged through the storm, every step felt like an eternity, but her resolve grew stronger. She couldn't abandon Roxy and Max, and she was determined to get them to safety. Her resolve turned into a fierce determination, driving her forward. The biting cold, falling snow, and darkness didn't deter her, and she kept moving forward for the sake of her companions. Sarah eventually reached the patrol car, where she gently placed Roxy and Max inside, ensuring their safety. She then got behind the wheel, her grip on the steering wheel tight, and her eyes fixed on the road ahead. Despite the uncertainty of their situation, she knew she had to keep moving forward. The storm showed no signs of weakening, but she stayed focused on her goal of getting Roxy and Max to safety. Sarah's determination was unwavering, driven by a sense of responsibility to Roxy and Max. She promised herself and them that she would do everything in her power to get them through this ordeal. As she navigated the treacherous roads, Sarah knew that she had to rely on her instincts and experience to guide her through the difficult conditions. Sarah navigates through the icy road with difficulty as she holds the steering wheel tightly. She mutters to herself, urging herself to drive faster, while trying to reassure her pets, Max the puppy and Roxy, who is currently in a weakened state. From the back seat, Roxy lies weakly, with Max staring anxiously at her. Sarah tries to calm them down with her soothing voice, reassuring them that they are on their way to the nearest animal hospital, which is still quite far. As the snow falls harder and the temperature continues to drop, Sarah's concern grows, knowing that her pets' lives depend on reaching the hospital quickly. As Sarah drove through the treacherous snowy road, her heart swelled with emotion thinking about her relationship with Max. However, it was quickly replaced by concern for Roxy, the badly injured dog, who showed an unwavering determination to survive. Sarah navigated through the difficult road conditions with care, driving slowly to avoid losing control of the car. The tires struggled to grip the road and visibility was poor, but Sarah kept her focus, relieved that she could finally see the lights of the animal hospital up ahead. When Sarah arrived at the hospital, a wave of relief washed over her, knowing that Roxy and Max would receive the help they desperately needed. After finally arriving, Sarah took a deep breath and allowed herself a moment of calm, grateful that they had made it through the storm. Once the car was turned off, Sarah quickly helped Roxy out, taking care not to jostle her injured body. Max followed closely behind, his tiny body trembling as he stayed by his mother's side. Sarah felt a mix of emotions as she watched the staff at the animal hospital take Roxy and Max in. A sense of relief that her pets were in good hands, and also exhaustion and worry from the journey that had just unfolded. As Sarah leaned against the wall of the hospital to collect herself, Max stood by her side, trembling but trying to stay strong. His wide, trusting eyes locked onto hers, and he nuzzled her hand gently, as if seeking reassurance. Sarah knelt down to pet Max, her voice soft with comfort. "You did great, Max," she whispered. "You got Mom to the hospital." Max's tail wagged softly, and he licked her hand, his eyes never leaving hers. It was as if he understood that he had done something important, and that was all that mattered. He was expressing complete trust in her through his words and actions. The veterinarian returned a few minutes later, providing an update that Roxy was stable for the time being and would require immediate treatment for her injured paw. Fortunately, the puppies were also in good health, but needed close monitoring for a while. Upon hearing the update, Sarah felt a huge relief and her emotions started to surface. She had successfully saved Roxy and Max, giving them a second chance at life. Max jumped onto Sarah's lap as if to express gratitude, and she held him close, feeling a deep sense of connection and change in her life. In saving Roxy and Max, they had also given her a new sense of hope and love. The hours at the animal hospital were filled with a mix of anxious waiting and cautious hope, but Sarah remained by their side, her mind filled with thoughts of their reunion and the unbreakable bond they shared. As Roxy rested in the hospital, the storm raging outside made it feel like time had come to a standstill. However, in the warmth of the hospital, there was still a sense of hope and possibility. Despite the challenges she faced, Roxy was in stable condition, but her recovery would be a long and difficult process. The veterinarian, Dr. Harrison, had explained that Roxy's paw was badly damaged and infected, but they were committed to helping her get better. Meanwhile, Max showed signs of being relatively healthy despite his exhaustion, constantly checking on his mother and snuggling close to Sarah. His small body would occasionally tremble, but Sarah could sense his relief now that they were safe. As the hours passed, Sarah felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for Max's bravery and determination. It was clear to her now that Max had led her to Roxy for a reason, knowing she needed help and showing unwavering loyalty to his mother. Sarah also knew she had played a crucial role in saving the day, working alongside Max to care for Roxy and get her the help she needed. Sarah's companion, who was initially hesitant and fearful, stepped up to ensure the safe passage of Max and herself. As Sarah watched Max resting peacefully beside her, her heart overflowed with pride and love. Dr. Harrison's gentle smile lit up the room when she entered with the news that Roxy's condition had improved significantly. Roxy was receiving proper care and was already showing signs of recovery, but still needed time to regain her strength. Dr. Harrison expressed her gratitude to Sarah for trusting them to help, considering they were essentially strangers. However, Sarah had gone above and beyond in forming emotional bonds with the animals, considering them her family now. With time, Roxy and Max started to recover, thanks to the care and dedication of the medical team involved in their treatment. The staff at the hospital kept a close eye on Roxy and Max, ensuring they were both comfortable and safe. Roxy's health began to recover steadily, and Max's anxiety started to subside as he adjusted to the new routine. Meanwhile, Sarah continued to visit them every day, spending hours with Max, who gradually gained trust in the hospital staff. He would curl up in Sarah's lap, and for a brief moment, she could forget about the storm that brought them to the hospital. However, as time passed, Sarah couldn't help but think about their future. The days at the hospital were temporary, and Roxy and Max would eventually need a permanent home where they could heal and find peace. Sarah was determined to provide that for them, no matter what. One afternoon, as Sarah sat beside Roxy, the dog's eyes opened, and she lifted her head, locking her gaze with Sarah's. There was a deep understanding and connection between them, rooted in their shared experience from the stormy night to their time in the hospital. In that moment, Sarah whispered reassuringly to Roxy, "You're going to be okay." Sarah gently brushed the dog's fur, reassuring the bond between her and Max. This gentle moment was crucial for Max's confidence, as he transformed from the fragile puppy Sarah had first met into a strong and energetic little dog. Max's eyes now sparkled with trust as he nuzzled Sarah's hand. He had come to her for help, and she was there for him. Their journey together was just beginning, and Sarah was committed to making sure they were both ready for whatever came next. The storm outside still lingered, but Sarah's focus was on Roxy and Max's recovery, and she refused to let the pressure weigh her down. Her dedication to their well-being was unwavering, and she was determined to help them heal. Roxy's injury was the reason for Sarah's concern, and she was doing everything in her power to ensure she received the best care possible. As Sarah waited for Roxy to recover from her injuries, she experienced a mix of hope and uncertainty. The road to full recovery was slow and unpredictable. Despite the doctor's efforts to manage Roxy's pain, Sarah noticed moments of exhaustion in the dog's eyes. This made her realize that even the most resilient creatures have limits. One evening, Sarah spent more time in the hospital than usual, and the quiet atmosphere allowed her to reflect on the future. She wondered where they would go once Roxy was discharged from the hospital. Sarah had no clear idea about the future, but she felt a deep connection to Roxy and did not want to let her go. Max, on the other hand, was full of energy and joy, bringing a sense of lightness to the hospital with his playful antics. However, Sarah knew that Max, like his mother Roxy, had been through traumatic experiences and still carried an underlying sense of fear. During dinner one evening, Roxy suddenly stiffened and began to panic, her eyes wide with fear. Max immediately reacted by running to her side and barking urgently, standing protectively in front of her. Sarah jumped to her feet, her heart racing, as she looked at Roxy and tried to calm her down. However, the tension in Roxy's body only grew stronger. Dr. Harrison rushed into the room to attend to Roxy, sensing the tense atmosphere. Sarah reported that Roxy was acting strangely, which was unusual for the dog. The veterinarian began examining Roxy, trying to ease Sarah's growing concern with her calm and composed demeanor. Checking the dog's vital signs revealed severe anxiety. The trauma from recent events had affected Roxy, causing her emotional state to deteriorate. Dr. Harrison reassured Sarah that Roxy's reaction was natural after experiencing traumatic events. The accumulation of stress, pain, and fear contributed to Roxy's current state. Max, the puppy, lay down beside Roxy, providing comfort. As he rested his head on Roxy's side, her tension slowly eased. His presence seemed to calm the dog, and Roxy's body relaxed. Sarah expressed gratitude towards Max for his comforting presence. She remained by Roxy's side, determined not to let her trauma hold them back from recovering. In the morning, Roxy appeared to be slightly better, with her breathing slowing and looking up at Sarah with tired but grateful eyes. Max was, as always, by Roxy's side, creating a heartwarming scene. Sarah stood in the quiet room, watching the love between the mother and son with a sense of hope and gratitude. Their journey had been long and arduous, but they had finally started to see the light at the end of the tunnel. A hopeful Dr. Harrison walked in with a contagious smile, sharing good news. Roxy's condition was improving significantly. The anxiety that had once threatened to tear them apart had been reduced, and she was responding well to the treatment. This meant that they could finally look forward to a future together, free from the burden of illness. Sarah's heart swelled with emotions as she gazed at the two of them, her gratitude pouring out like a river. These animals had entered her life at a time when she needed them most, giving her a sense of purpose and belonging. Now it was her turn to provide them with the life they deserved, a life filled with love, care, and happiness. As the warmer days rolled in, the heavy snow that had once seemed like an insurmountable obstacle began to melt away, leaving behind a memory of how fragile life could be. Sarah had shown great resilience and determination in fighting for Roxy and Max, and now it was time to focus on rebuilding their lives. After Roxy's injuries healed and Max's playful nature returned, the bond between the three of them became unbreakable. However, Sarah knew their journey wasn't over, and they still needed a safe and peaceful home to live in. Deciding to adopt Roxy and Max, Sarah felt a sense of responsibility, but also closure. As she drove them back to her apartment, Sarah felt the world had become a more meaningful place, and everything seemed to have aligned to bring them together. Sarah and her pets Roxy and Max settled into their new home, focusing on healing together. The small apartment was filled with love, including a cozy bed by the window for Roxy and a play area for Max. Sarah took care of daily walks, playtime, and training sessions with Max, observing him grow stronger and more confident. Meanwhile, Roxy gradually became more comfortable in her new surroundings. As the bond between Sarah, Roxy, and Max deepened, Sarah marveled at their transformations. During a peaceful afternoon at the park, Sarah watched Max chasing a stick with enthusiasm while Roxy sat calmly beside her, exuding contentment. These quiet moments highlighted the strength of their connection. As the sun sets on the horizon, Sarah feels a deep sense of contentment and gratitude for the life she has built with Roxy and Max. Their journey from the stormy night they first met has been a transformative one, filled with challenges and triumphs. Now as they sit together in the park, Max's joyful energy and Roxy's unwavering loyalty remind Sarah that they have truly made it through the toughest of times. The bond between Sarah, Roxy, and Max has grown stronger with each passing day, and Sarah knows that their love and loyalty for each other will carry them through whatever the future holds. As she gazes at her two beloved companions, Sarah realizes that their story is no longer just one of survival, but of hope, happiness, and the beauty of their unwavering connection. Their journey was indeed challenging, but it brought them closer as a family and taught them the true meaning of family. Roxy, Max, and Sarah's experience was one of overcoming incredible obstacles with resilience, love, and hope. It's clear that love can be a powerful force in helping people build new lives despite adversity.